So John's calling from Texas. Pronouns are he, him. He's a theist who wants to talk about the possibility of consciousness being an illusion. Ooh. All right, John, you're on with
Hi.
Eric and Matt.
Hey. This is kind of a continuation of a conversation we had a few days ago.
Yeah.
When I was basically making the claim that, that there's everything in the entire universe just looks like rocks tumbling, from like a materialist perspective. And you kind of jumped to the conclusion, well, that sounds more like that consciousness is an illusion than like that there's like a mind behind everything. And if we could, I wanted to kind of go over because I kind of made four different claims. And they
Oh,
don't really rest on each other, but I actually think we agree on three of the four. It's just like that one claim that we're kind of having an issue with. But I think that seems way more logical than consciousness being an illusion. So I guess first I want to know what you mean by that.
I, are you saying that I said consciousness was an illusion? Because that doesn't sound like anything I would ever say.
No. Okay. So you said that if what I was describing is true, that saying that everything in the universe is just taking the path of least action and then it all looks determinate and you actually don't see any agency when you get close, that like well, you're saying this sounds like an argument that if true, that means that it sounds like consciousness is an illusion. And I was like, I just don't see how that's a reasonable place to end up at. And I guess you could say that like, well, we're conscious because the rocks are arranged in a certain way that suddenly like desire comes about. But that
I,
sounds way more like weird magic to me than just saying that no, consciousness is like gravity,
I
as in
just,
matter
no,
like
stop.
harnesses it, it doesn't produce it.
John, I just asked if
Yeah.
I said consciousness was an illusion, and you said no, and then you told what happened right up to me saying consciousness is an illusion. So
Yes.
let's set all. But you said I didn't say it, and I don't remember saying it, and I don't think that saying
Sorry.
consciousness is an illusion is anything that I would actually say because of Descartes.
Okay.
How can you hang on? How can you have an illusion without a consciousness there to deceive? So let's throw out everything you think I said the last time we talked and just start over because Eric wasn't here anyway. So what would you like to talk
Okay.
about?
Well, I'm saying that everything in the universe seems to be governed by the principle of path of least action. That objects seem to be like seeking a state of like normalcy or homeostasis. Some people have been getting on me about the language. Like that's not what homeostasis is. I'm getting this from machine learning people in Michael Levin, and if that's the word he uses, I think people understand what I'm saying. I think it's fine. Like things are very much just kind of falling into place, and there doesn't seem to be any agency when you step back. And I was basically saying that, like, honestly, I think it might be that like the anxiety is like tied to entropy in like a fundamental way, and that seems like that could be like what's going on, I guess. And I guess I was also making a claim that like, by the way, this isn't saying that like the entire universe is like planned out, like technically from a quantum physics perspective, it's indeterminate. Whether you want to make like that, say that's whatever claims you want to make about free will after that, I can't really say. All I'm just saying is that your life story isn't
Now we're
determined
back.
from
Now
when
you
you're a
just
child.
mentioned free will.
Yeah.
Are you conflating consciousness and free will?
No. I was trying to actually establish. I think we actually agree on the free will question as
Well,
far as we can, as
it
far
does
as it's
sound like
possible
me
to.
to say that free will might be an illusion. It doesn't sound like me to say consciousness was an illusion. So, were we talking about free
Okay.
will or were we talking about consciousness?
No, I mean you said that if the you said what the argument I'm seeming to make would imply that consciousness is an illusion. That's what you said. I think you said it seems to imply. I would start thinking that consciousness is an illusion. And I'm like, I don't see how that could be a reasonable supposition, is I guess what
John,
I'm asking.
John, what's your
Go ahead.
definition of consciousness?
I would say something like, I mean, I oftentimes just use the word awareness. And so I kind of could get into a distinction. I think that, like, because rocks essentially just have one pathway towards maintaining homeostasis. Cells have
Okay.
more. As cells group together, they get even more pathways. And it's essentially that measurement of how many pathways you have towards intelligence is a pathway towards homeostasis the same thing as intelligence. So you can imagine like rock is one, thermostat is number two, like chat GPT, and then like a rat, and then us. You know what I mean? As far as like problem
I'm
solving, something like that.
I'm still a little. So I didn't really get a concrete example or a concrete definition of consciousness. You mentioned awareness, and then you started like saying like, okay, we have levels of consciousness from rock all the way up to human, but that doesn't quite answer my question, because like awareness can be a lot of different things. Like if I poke a mushroom just right, it'll puff off a bunch of spores. Is that because it's aware of me? Is that a consciousness?
So I believe so. Okay, we should actually get into this too. I don't know what you think about this. I think that like all cells are definitely conscious.
Well, I'm still looking for your definition of consciousness before we go into talking about whether cells are conscious or not.
I guess I would say like consciousness is the thing that things are happening to. I guess it's hard to define. I mean, it's just like awareness. It's
I'm
like,
even more.
Why does it feel like there's a perception to be alive? You know what I mean? Why is that
I agree.
Why doesn't everything? Why do I see anything? You know what I mean? Like
I agree. It's a hard thing. I agree. It's a hard thing to define. These are questions that philosophers have been grappling with for centuries. But if you're going to be coming in here saying that consciousness is an illusion, or you don't, I forget your exact position on it. But if consciousness is an illusion, we need to first concretely define what a consciousness is, and then from there we can start analyzing it. Yeah. You don't think it's an illusion?
I don't think it's no. I think that makes no sense. But I guess for me, with the like the thing I'm laying out, there's essentially like three possibilities. One is that consciousness is an illusion. I don't think that makes much sense at all. One is that, well, you could kind of make like a Punnett square. Like one is that like consciousness only exists in like or complex organisms, things that we seem like they have agency. I think it seems like rocks have agency, but like things that seem like they have agency, like and just say, well, the illusion of consciousness just comes into a certain place when you arrange them in a certain spiral and whatever. I think that sounds like ridiculousness. Or you could say, then again, they say that, well, no, consciousness is real. It's sort of, and then I don't know, maybe you could say it's responsible for the determinacy, quantum indeterminacy, or something like that. And
are you treating consciousness as
is solved emotionally?
So John, are you treating consciousness as like a discrete object or as a property of something?
I'm not treating it as an object.
Okay, so we're treating it as a property or an attribute of something else.
I guess.
So like if a car is going fast, is fast an illusion?
No.
Okay.
I mean, kind of actually, yeah. I mean, fast doesn't mean anything objectively.
Okay. So maybe consciousness is in that same category. Maybe consciousness is just a set of attributes that meet a certain threshold, and things may or may not hit that or not.
I mean, I'm saying the category of fast, that only exists to something subjective. Like everything, I don't even know what speed is for that subjective.
Maybe consciousness is subjective.
I guess I mean, you could say that you could say, okay, we could say we could create different levels of something like awareness. We could say that, like whatever a thermostat has, it's even if it's just on 0.1 on the timeline, it's so different that we just say it's something else.
Right.
Like if you want to do that, that's fine.
Right.
I'm just saying it seems to be like a 1 on the spectrum that keeps going.
Right. What if so are you basically pointing at humans and saying this is like 10 on the spectrum of consciousness? Like we're maxed out?
No, I wouldn't say we're maxed out. No.
Okay. Because I was gonna posit
like we organize more intelligence together than just singularly. I mean that's like obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say hypothetically, let's think of like hyper intelligent aliens that are like 100 on the consciousness scale, and they might look at us and go, "Wow, these creatures aren't even conscious because they're so far above and beyond anything we can consider consciousness." That's the thing. Like we're talking about.
But like I mean, we're getting into weird. I mean, I'm not necessarily.
I know, but what I'm trying to.
I think the aliens would just come in here and not say they aren't conscious. I think they would just say their consciousness is very little. As Michael Levin would say, their cognitive light cone of problems they're interested to solve is very narrow and small.
Right. So I guess I was trying to tie it back to like the car go fast analogy. Like consciousness is something that we describe as an attribute of something else. If a brain is suddenly deactivated because a person dies, that consciousness is quote unquote no longer there. It's no longer a property of that brain. It's not that it went anywhere. It's just we no longer describe that object as such. Right. So if a car goes from stop to go, we can say, okay, that car is going fast. And when the car stops, the fast didn't go anywhere. It's just no longer an attribute of that particular object, right? So if you want to talk about consciousness as if you want to talk about consciousness as being an illusion, first of all, we have to concretely identify what consciousness is in concrete terms, set thresholds, set metrics, and say, okay, if it meets this criteria, we can consider that conscious. If it doesn't, it's not conscious.
But I think it doesn't make sense on its own grounding. It's like saying words don't exist. I saw someone say it in the comments. I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, how could you say that words don't exist? You're using. It's like that's just. It's like consciousness in a way is like I'm not even sure if like anything else in my entire life is real except for my consciousness in a certain extent. You know, that's the thing. Therefore, I am kind of thing.
Sure.
It's like.
Sure. That's I adopt that as well as probably one of the only things I'm 100% confident in is my existence, because I exist in some form in order to consider my existence.
So I think we can knock that hypothesis off just on assuming that the universe is logical and only logical things can exist.
I might be losing the thread here. So what is the main thrust of your call? Do you have a question? Do you have a point you want to make? Like what is the point of the call here?
Well, I guess there's a couple points. I mean, one, I think that like, so Matt, in our last conversation, like, I guess I didn't take this idea like as far as I could, but in the last conversation, you said that the minerals don't have any agency. It's the forces of the universe acting on the mineral. And I said, yes. And I'm saying that from a materialist perspective, the same thing is true of you. You don't see any agency in your body. And that's kind of like I mentioned this idea of a top-down, bottom-up causation. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, there are forces in the universe that are pushing you. You know what I mean? And actually the same process that's giving you ideas in your head are the same processes that created you and created all the structured patterns in the universe to begin with. It is like, in the more I think once you accept that, like a lot of like Eastern and Western philosophy, people saying, you know, don't lie to yourself or you'll pollute souls in your water and you won't be able to hear the word of God. And, you know what I mean? Like all these sorts of things start to make a lot of sense. It's very like real. It's like, yeah, the universe has a logic. If you corrupt your structure, you won't be able to hear like it whispering to you. You know what I mean? I think that all like makes perfect sense to me, I guess. And then you also have to get the idea of like, well, if there's a mind behind me and you can't see it, why wouldn't I assume there's also a mind behind rocks? And rocks are like actually getting like comfortable. Like really, like that's why in some sense, I'm not really saying, but like you start to arrive at a very Christian understanding very fast. All these things are true in my opinion.
Whoa.
They seem to be true.
Whoa. What the hell do you mean that you start to arrive at a very Christian understanding very fast? Literally nothing you've said points in any way towards a very Christian understanding of anything, not the least of which is the difference that agency has a particular definition within philosophy that includes humans but excludes rocks. I'm sorry that you're having difficulty with it, but even if you're correct about a brute, hard, deterministic, materialistic world where I am indistinguishable from a rock, the question then becomes, so what?
I don't really care about what the philosophers say about the rock fundamentally. If the scientists are saying something else, I'm going to trust the scientists. Like, from a scientific perspective, yeah, there's no more agency in you than a rock. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, okay. Like, I wish you to fucking listen to me.
Okay.
Since I just said, if that's the case and there's no difference between a human and a rock, so what? I didn't say, nor did I suggest. I didn't say, nor did I suggest that we should pay attention to philosophers over scientists. I talked about the fact that you are dismissing agency, and within the philosophical world, that's a mistake. If you want to say the scientists can't find agency in a materialist,
have agency.
Would you keep fucking interrupting me, John?
Okay.
If you want to say that within the scientific community, they don't find agency, okay, cool. My question remains, so what? How does that get you to, therefore, Christianity?
I'm saying, so what? One, doesn't mean the agency doesn't exist. I'm saying, so two, I guess, well, I don't know, it seems very logical to conclude that it also exists in rocks. And I know there are people who study minerals who say that, who are like, yeah, rocks are making a decision and we don't know how.
Who's saying that rocks are making a decision? What science is that?
I don't know. It's something I've always heard, and I always thought it was like ridiculous. But I've been like writing this out and thinking about what Michael Evans talked about, and he's actually brought this up too. That like
Michael Evans, a biologist. What the fuck does Michael Evans know about? What the fuck does he know about rocks?
A lot. He knows a lot about a lot of things. He's like very well read.
Okay, go talk to him then.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
I don't love you. Does that make you happy? Why? Why are you bailing? John, who was on previously, is back. So welcome back, John.
Hi. I guess, I want to, if you're curious, you want to talk about, I mean, you kind of acted like it was really crazy, the idea that your individual cells are conscious and that your body is a collective conscious. Like, I guess, like, where do you think consciousness comes in? Because my understanding is that all of your cells have the exact same things as neurons. They communicate the same way as neurons. It's just that your neurons are just specialized highways that some cells turn into to integrate information and travel information faster. So, like, yeah, where do you think? Because it doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, sorry.
Neurons are a specific type of cell. Not all cells have neurons. Not all cells are neurons. Not all cells have neurons. Neurons are nerve cells.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, like, they're just a more specialized version of the same thing that all your other cells has. Like, all your cells communicate by the same means as neurons and have the same properties and the same principles as neurons.
No.
Okay.
The fact that something is a nerve cell doesn't mean it's conscious. So we have a cell that is a neuron, and we have a cell that's not a neuron, and then we have a collection of neurons wired together in a particular way. I'm saying there's no evidence that the non-nerve cell, that the cell that's not a neuron, there's no evidence that it is conscious. And the neuron, the single cell, has not demonstrated consciousness as we would describe it in and of itself, but a network of neurons wired together in a particular way allows the sort of conscious awareness that we would describe in that way. That's why we tend to say that consciousness is an emergent property of a brain, because the brain is where a bunch of neurons are and how they are wired together. And only when they are wired together in particular ways and are actively alive and doing stuff do we call that consciousness.
Okay. So I guess I would say two things. I mean, I guess there's a weird phenomenon where you can split a person's corpus callosum, and it seems like they have two,
Yeah, this is a talk that I've referenced dozens of times from V.S. Ramaswamy. And yes, if you sever the corpus callosum, the person will essentially have two independent consciousnesses that communicate independently and have different likes and preferences. And in one of the cases that he spoke about, one of the two consciousness was an atheist and the other one was a theist.
That makes sense, actually. That actually makes a lot of sense. One side of your brain tends to, like, understand things as, like, mechanical, and the other, like, understand things as, like, more like a whole flow kind of weird thing. So that actually makes actually a lot of sense. But anyways, so, like, when
that's an example of, like, two distinct.
Like, a single cell. If you take a single cell.
Hang on. So we have this example that you brought up, where we can take someone who has a single identifiable conscious and will and desire and all the things that we package together. Then we take an act that separates this, and you end up with two distinct consciousnesses with different personalities, memories, likes, all that other stuff. And yet now you're still at this point where that's two consciousnesses and not 85 billion consciousnesses, because not every neuron is conscious.
Well, I guess I think it's just that their information is all integrated together. Like, so, like, a single cell, when you add more cells to it, all you do is you're increasing its ability to problem solve. You're not adding anything fundamental to it. Like, I don't know
No,
why.
sir. No, sir.
What?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. We're not increasing the single cell's ability to problem solve. We're increasing
The
the
collective.
network's ability to problem solve. And it is the collective network, not the individual cell, is where we identify consciousness.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. I don't. So you could also say a network of two cells is conscious. Like, I don't know. Do you think you just need to have two cells for it to be conscious?
Find two cells and demonstrate that they're consciousness, and make the argument and make the case and earn yourself a Nobel Prize. But so far, nobody said,
how would
hey,
I do that differently than I would demonstrate that it's real in you?
I don't know, but you could start by not interrupting me while I'm still finishing what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's not my job to figure out how you'll demonstrate the thing that you're fucking asserting. It's your job to figure out how to demonstrate that, isn't it? You believe it.
I mean, I think I'm explaining it pretty well. I mean, so like, you don't.
No, you're not.
I can feel the consciousness in my hands right now if I focus on it.
So
John, you think you can feel the consciousness in your hand. I literally said, if you think two cells are conscious, then demonstrate it and earn a Nobel Prize. And your response was, how can I do that? And my response is, that's not my problem. I'm not the one actively saying I believe one cell is alive, or two cells is, or one cell is conscious, or two cells are conscious. You're claiming that. You have the burden of proof, and you're the one that has to come up with the way to demonstrate that, not the guy on the show you called.
I'm saying that the cells, there's no fundamental difference between you and the two cells. It's the scaling issue, and I don't think you don't become a different kind when you scale things.
This isn't scaling. Just like if me and you and Eric were down in my garage and the three of us decided to work together on a project, are the results going to be the same as if one of us were working on it?
No, you'd be more intelligent together.
Okay, you just disproved the thing you said a minute ago. So, okay.
Wait, what? How is that disproving it? That you guys would be more intelligent working on it together than alone?
So John, if I was down in the garage by myself, all right, I'm working on a problem, all right, and then my body grows more skin cells while I'm there working. I now have more cells than I did when I entered that garage. Am I now more intelligent?
Yeah. Well, actually, that happens when you're growing and developing. When you're solving problems and you're eating and your brain grows.
I'm growing skin cells right now, John. John, I'm growing skin cells right now. Let's say, for instance, that I'm losing less skin cells than I'm currently growing. I am currently growing more skin cells than I'm losing. My number of cells are increasing right at this very moment. Am I becoming more intelligent right now?
Well, I mean, like, you have to divide, like, your intelligence
if I lop off,
to solving
if I lop
problems. So if
I lop off my arm right now, if I lop off my arm right now, do I become less intelligent? How do you even measure this?
I mean, in a technical way, yes. In a very technical way, yes. The amount of problems that you can solve.
What do you mean technical way? Can you demonstrate that I'm less intelligent or not if I lop off my arm?
Have you lost?
I'm asking you, how do you fall?
I mean, you've lost the memories that you would use to grab stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's all probably gone. I mean, that's actually kind of hard because memories are
you think the memories, you think memories that I have of grabbing things are in my arm?
So, okay. So like what's happening with memory is that your body is
John, I asked you a simple question.
No, this is important.
John, if I can name,
like, I get the question you're answering, but this mechanism is actually.
I'm muting you because, so first of all, nobody asked about memory. I don't know that you're an expert on memory. I don't know that's relevant. John, I'm going to ask you a question. If I can name the fallacy that you've repeatedly committed here, will you drop this and acknowledge it?
I mean, probably, but can I finish what I was saying? Because this is actually kind of interesting and relevant, I think.
No, the fact that it's interesting to you doesn't mean that it's interesting to me or the audience. You're committing the fallacy of division, the fallacy that a property of the whole is contained within its parts. That is the fallacy of division. It may be true, but you need to demonstrate it. Just asserting that this is the way it works is in fact the fallacy of division.
Well, I mean, I've heard Richard Dawkins. Wait, am I back in? Hello?
Okay, now I'm going to mute you because I don't care what you've heard Richard Dawkins say. I don't give a shit what Richard Dawkins or anybody else said. I pointed out the fallacy of division. Are you going to acknowledge that fallacy, or are you going to bring up another red herring by appealing to Richard Dawkins, who I don't give a fuck what he said?
I mean, honestly, I can't. I'd have to know more about the fallacy to say whether or not if I like.
Well, then maybe
believe it or
the
not.
best thing you
I mean,
can
to
do
me,
is
what
go
I'm
look at
describing
the fallacy of division.
Okay. But this question you're asking about memory in your arm is very interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, so what happens when your body is marking prescient states? Like, you hit your finger with a hammer. What it does is that your cells are sharing the fingers, the cells of the fingers in your hand. Remember that state, and through a process of osmosis that goes across the other cells, gets stored up essentially in your hippocampus, and you have an entire like stamp of your whole body in there. And if you want to access the memory, what's actually happening is the whole thing is unfolding again across your whole body. You can even unfold it, like flip it backwards, you can imagine, and then like you feel in the other hand and stuff too. But like it's you're really accessing past states of the universe. This is correct. I see you nodding no.
All right, John.
Like,
John, okay, hold on. John. Stop. John,
yeah.
Stop.
Nobody believes you anymore.
If you're wrong about all this, how would you know?
I'm being technically correct.
John, if you were wrong about all
of it, you have to believe me.
You're not technically correct, and I think your last name is Snow, but I'll bow out now.
It's Grieger.
John.
Grieger.
It's John. Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow, but I'll let you.
John, if you were wrong about all this, how would you know it?
If I was wrong about this, how would I know it?
Yeah. If you were mistaken about all this, let's say you're just completely going down the wrong path and you're just completely wrong about it. Just hypothetically, just for a moment, pretend like you're wrong about this. How would you know that?
I think what would happen is I would see someone who is like as from understanding of memory, or a more firm understanding, like provable. Because Michael Levin, he's not just like making up.
I'm not asking you talking to other John
of animals.
John, friend,
okay,
how
John,
would you know?
I've muted you for a second so that Eric can ask his question. Name drop is going to get you nowhere, but go ahead.
John, I'm talking about falsification here.
Yeah.
Okay. If I wanted to falsify gravity, all I would have to do is say, if I want to falsify gravity, I would just have to drop this pen and it would fly up. Very, very clear falsification criteria for gravity. Okay. I'm asking you, all right, if cells have consciousness and you're wrong, if you think cells have consciousness and you're wrong about that, how would you know? One falsification criteria.
I have to give kind of. First, I would say
I don't care. I don't care about preamble. I'm asking what.
Well, I'm just saying I would believe what I was saying was wrong if someone came up with a better theory to explain the sort of things that Michael Levin is finding.
And there's your next fallacy. There's your next fallacy. Believing something until somebody proves you wrong is essentially an argument from incredulity. It is arrogance on parade. It's an acknowledgement that you don't have sufficient reason to believe it, but you're going to believe it anyway. And now you're shifting the burden of proof onto everybody else to prove that you're wrong. Meanwhile, your thing about memory ignores, it would have been nice if you listened to the rest of V.S. Ramaswamy's talk about mirror neurons and severing the corpus callosum, because you should look up phantom limb syndrome as well, because that's relevant to this. That shows that the memory of the arm is not contained in the arm.
Okay, I mean, like, honestly, I listen to people like neuroscientists all day, and they never say anything that's like, oh, that's completely out, that doesn't fit up with what I understand. Like, I'm not, like, citing strange things. I'm just citing things that are at the forefront, that are talked about by people like Carl Friston and Michael Levin, and people who are actually at the forefront of machine learning and bioengineering and AI, and these are the mathematical principles that they're deriving. Like, if
John,
like I'm,
what did I tell you about fucking name dropping?
Yeah,
John,
what did I tell you about name dropping? If you're just going to name drop to avoid the fact that you've now committed multiple fallacies that have been identified by name and by structure and identifying them, why should we bother to keep talking to you? Because now you've gone from someone who was an honest interlocutor last time to just, every time you get called out, it's, well, let me say Michael Levin and this, and I'm just talking about what's on the forefront, and there's memory in this, and that's, it has nothing to do with anything you've pointed to, and none of it points to Christianity, which is your whole fucking point. By the way, Are the scientists that you're pointing to, have they reached the conclusion of Christianity?
So actually, I listened to a podcast. Okay, I'm going to talk about
yes or no,
but like I listened to a podcast
yes or no question, John.
with Levin, with Michael Levin and Bernardo
That's a yes
Castro,
or no question.
and they start off. Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
They start off the conversation.
Okay, I'm going to mute you because there are people who no longer think that you're serious, and I don't want to give the chat the credence of that. When we ask a question after entertaining and identifying your fallacies, just answer the damn question so that we can get on to the next thing. This is not your show. You're lucky I let you even call back in after ditching earlier. So, of the forefront of neuroscientists that you're listening to, what percentage of them are Christians because of neuroscience?
I have no idea.
That's correct. I'll believe that answer. Thank you.
Okay, so I've heard Michael Levin and Bernardo Castro literally start off a podcast saying, like, if you put a gun to my head, theory, if I was trying to explain how the universe works, they would say that it seems like there was something like a unified mind in perfect homeostasis that was.
Why do I care? Okay, I'm muting you again. John, do you have an evidence-based argument to make, or are you just going to continue to appeal to a biologist and what he said he'd say with a gun to his head, which doesn't change anything? It's not an argument. It's not evidence. It doesn't demonstrate anything. Stop fucking hero worshiping people and make a case. I don't give a flying, if I don't care what Dawkins said, and I've sat on stage with him, why would I give a fuck whether or not Michael Levin will think there's some designer with a gun to his head? He's a biologist. He has zero expertise in God. Are you going to make a case, or are you going to keep trying to name drop?
No, and honestly, I think this entire time I've been showing that I actually very much do understand the logical arguments, and they're actually not that hard to grasp and simple. I'm not just name dropping. I'm explaining what exactly I believe.
Goodbye, John.
Okay.
You failed to identify the fallacy. You said you didn't fucking understand it. And now, after you've name dropped for the 20th time, now you're going to
understand.
No, you don't fucking understand it. You said you didn't understand it. And that's why I suggested you needed to go look it up. You liar.
When did I say I didn't understand what? The logical fallacy or the research?
Of division that you wouldn't fucking acknowledge.
Yeah.
The fallacy of division. What's the fallacy of division?
John. So John, earlier.
Stop. You just said, what's the fallacy of division? How fucking dare you suggest that you understand this shit when we already went down this road and I told you needed to go look up the fallacy of fucking division, and now you're going to pretend like you know it, but you don't know it. You're a fucking liar, John. Why are you doing that?
I never pretended like I knew it.
Why are you doing that?
I never pretended like I knew it.
Why are you doing that? You fucking liar.
Can you explain it to me? I've never heard of that fallacy.
Why are you doing that?
Okay, this is so
if you've never heard of that fallacy, and you committed it, then clearly you've demonstrated that you don't have a good understanding of the logic. Isn't that correct?
Of logic, or of that specific thing? Of logic in general, or
of the fallacy of fucking division that you committed that I called out? How dare you at the end of all this
suggest? Can you say it again?
Shut the fuck up, John. You're muted. After I called you out for a fallacy, you said you didn't understand it. We dropped it, and you can go look at it. Then you kept doing the name dropping thing. And then you said the words, you think you have demonstrated an understanding of logic in this discussion. No, you fucking haven't. You wouldn't acknowledge the fallacy. You've repeatedly said you aren't familiar with that fallacy. Go fucking Google it. But you're not doing this logically.
I guess if you could bring up the logical fallacy again, we could discuss it and I could properly evaluate to see if I'm actually making that mistake. Right now, I'm just not going to trust you. That's just another logical fallacy of believing authority.
John.
You're just yelling.
John, I'm muting you, okay? I suggested you go fucking look it up and learn. And now you're saying you're a fucking liar who's suggesting that I'm suggesting you should just trust me. Never did I say just fucking trust me. I specifically told you to go look it up. I'm going to ban you from the show, you dishonest, lying fuck. How you like them apples?
Honest at all. I don't think I'm dishonest at all. Everyone, I see people in the chat saying I'm playing with Matt. I'm not playing with Matt. Yeah, I'm a real person. As fun as that seems, but
last chance,
yeah,
last chance. You want to get banned?
I don't know what I did wrong or what I can do to fix that.
You accused me of suggesting that you just needed to trust me on the fallacy. When did I do that?
I'm saying when your actions of not explaining it and then just saying that, and I'm like, just tell me,
John,
we can talk about it.
Do you think that I have a duty?
You won't admit it.
John, do you think that I have a duty to explain the fallacy to you when I told you to go fucking look it up and you haven't?
I didn't know you meant right now on my computer. I didn't know that'd be good radio. I thought we could take everyone along with us.
You're done. You're done. Don't call me again.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Snow, Pokemon Master and Executive Producer on The Line. Would you like to support a specific show on The Line or The Line in general? There are special tiers on our Patreon and in our channel memberships. You can do just that. By the way, you could consider leaving a super thanks down below. You could also like, subscribe, and leave a regular comment. All of these are great. Now, I'm going to get back to crushing loneliness, but while I do that, why don't you check out one of these?